Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network. Any opinions or comments made by any guest are their own, and they do not necessarily reflect any of the presenters or network's opinions.
Since the beginning of time, people have argued about the existence of ghosts. They've been called variously wraiths, specters, phantoms, apparitions, shadows, or shades. But everyone agrees that if there are such things as ghosts, they are the souls of dead persons haunting living persons.
Hello, this is Philip Kinsella, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK radio network, the UK's biggest paranormal network, and this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young.
Hello and welcome to the show. Thank you for that introduction, Philip. On this particular show we will be going ghost hunting. Now, the Roman scholar Pliny the Younger was the first to write about ghost hunting. 2,000 years later, the ghost hunt still goes on. For all the thousands of hours spent by investigators in cold, dark houses, ghosts remain elusive and unproven. So we hope to get a bit closer to what ghosts are, actually. Paul Croft is someone who actually takes it on board that ghosts are real. Okay, before I bring Paul on, I'd just like to say, if you'd like to get in touch with me at any time, my email address is davidyoung2qn@yahoo.co.uk. That's davidyoung2qn@yahoo.co.uk. And also, don't forget to visit the Paranormal Dimensions Facebook page. Okay, I'd like to introduce Mr. Paul Croft. Hello, Paul. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, David, for having me.
It's a great pleasure to welcome you to Paranormal Dimensions, Paul. As you know, we met, I don't know, how many years ago? It must have been about 4 or 5 years ago, wasn't it?
5 years ago.
Something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was was it the Paraforce, wasn't it?
Paraforce, yeah, at the Galleries of Justice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to go back there again next year, because there's the East Anglia Paranormal Investigation Group are going there, and we've sort of signed up to go back there again, so that should be quite interesting.
Yeah, it is an interesting place. I've had a few strange things there, so...
Yeah, on that night we met, I mean, when you were showing me a few things that were happening, like strange pictures and that you were getting, weren't you?
Yeah, we had a few that night. I don't really like to talk about orbs, because 95% of them can be explained away.
Yeah.
But there was a few strange light anomalies that night, sort of coming onto the screen when you asked a question. They'd come into the shot of the photo or into the film footage.
I'll tell you what, I got a strange light. There was one particular room, I can't remember which room it was there, but it had beams in it. And I took a couple of photos in there. Now, on one of the photos, it's got like a blob of white. It don't look like it looks like a paint splotch on it, which is really quite strange. But I'll have to find it and send it to you, show it to you. But
yeah, I mean,
and that was in, and I think that was in like, I'm not sure if it was in. I don't know if the lights were on or if the lights were off at that time. But of course, it comes out light, doesn't it, when you take your photo?
Yeah, I mean, we did the Galleries of Justice in about, it would have been about 2012, 2013.
Did you?
I'd gone with my partner. We'd gone to a fundraiser for the Help the War Heroes, and everyone was in the courtroom, and we just happened to be taking photos. And when we checked the photos on the camera, there was a face of a lady, but it was 180 degrees looking back at us.
Wow.
The first thing I said to my partner is, when we get home, we'll get it on the computer and we'll blow it up, see what it is. But when we got home, gone off the phone.
It was gone?
Off the camera, should I say, yeah. Off the digital camera, yeah, the picture just wasn't there. You'd got something like, it went from something like 58 straight to 60. Picture 59 did not exist.
That's strange. Huh. Must explain that one. I guess we ought to explain the Galleries of Justice we're talking about is in Nottingham in the UK, isn't it? I mean, this is for our international listeners.
Yes, it's quite well known, because basically that was where the hangings used to take place, just outside.
Yeah. Oh.
But it's burnt down twice, I believe.
Has it?
Been
I didn't know
rebuilt,
that.
Yeah.
It's a massive complex, though, isn't it? It's because it's got all underground works in it.
Yeah, it was actually still in use up until the late 70s, I believe.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I know that's where Malcolm Robinson and I had a really strange event. We were coming up the stairs from downstairs. We spoke about this on a show I did with Malcolm. And we heard a crack behind us, like a sharp crack. It was coming up in the dark sort of thing. And Malcolm went back down the stairs. He found like a stone on the stairs, and it was warm.
You'd have been coming up from the cells and into the court.
Yes, that's right. It was coming up from the cells. It was quite black, and those stairs were very cold, and this stone was warm, you know. And it was like it wasn't like normally if you throw a stone on stairs, you'd get like a bouncing sound, wouldn't you? But this was just like one crack, as if it was, I can only assume it was that stone because it was warm and everything, but we don't know where it came from. There was nobody else around behind us, so.
I know I was lucky enough there to, I went with another fundraising group, before I set Secret Hauntings up. In fact, no, this was just as I'd set Secret Hauntings up, back in 2013. And I was in the Pauper's Cave, and there was probably 8 of us in there, and everyone was, apart from 2 people, everyone was sitting down on some benches that had been put in. And I just asked a question, knowing that the reports for that cave is where the children was put who'd been arrested.
Right.
And I took some old 2p's and old pennies and half pennies and crowns, and just as trigger object for the night. And I happened to say, if there's any children in here, I've got some coins here to pay the jailer. If you want to pay the jailer and go, we can do that. And I caught on the camera what seemed to be the height of a child. It was a shadow person which came from behind somebody.
Mm.
And the first thing I asked was, has anybody just moved? We checked on the camera to see if anybody had moved. There was nobody. But yeah, we caught what was the height of a child just peeking out from one of the people standing up.
Wow.
And you know yourself, the only way you can cast a shadow is if somebody's standing in front of the light source.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and also
there's nobody.
These places,
apart from the person standing.
As I say, it's so dark anyway. You wouldn't throw a shadow anyway, would you?
No. And the only person that the IR light was shining onto was a person where this shadow, which came up to their waist, came behind and went back in again.
Right. Yeah, that Pauper's Cave you're talking about, is that the one that's right down the bottom? It's got like a rough dirt floor type of thing, is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite creepy down there, isn't it?
You go into it, I think there's a little small corridor that leads into it, and then there's 2, you can turn right into that one, and I think there's another little room to the left, if my memory serves me right.
Yeah. Because they've actually got on the floor up from that, they've got proper cells and things, haven't they? Like a proper floor. But this place is really like a cave, like you described it.
Yeah. And I think if you come out and walk down the corridor towards the condemned man's cell, there was actually another cave that goes under it, where they used to put people as well.
Wow.
There's a grill over that one, so you can't actually get into it.
Terrible, isn't it, when you think back what they used to do to people. Ugh. Anyway, so how did you come up with the name of Secret Hauntings, then, Paul? Your group?
The name came about is I used to be part of another paranormal team, and it was my insight into the paranormal within that team, and talking with one of the other members, it wasn't for us the way that team ran, because I'm not a public events person. I'm in it for trying to find out if there is something.
I thought you were going to say you're in it for the money, but no, you're not.
No, I think the amount of money I've made is I've probably lost 5,000 or 6,000 over the last 8 years.
Sorry, that's just one of my bad jokes.
So we spoke about it, and we decided that we was going to form our own team. And we went out one day, and it was near Sleaford. I can't remember the actual name of the place. No, I can't remember the name of the place we went now. And when I'd got home that evening, I sent the photos up and says to the people who was there that day, "Oh, what a great day. This was our first day of haunting secretly." And then I thought, what a name, Secret Hauntings, because we was actually haunting in secret from the other team.
Right, yeah.
So that is where the name come from.
So that's how it was born.
Yeah.
So, how many years ago was that again?
8 years ago.
8 years ago.
2013.
Because I understand you also got an award for, was it in 2000 and, what year was it? 2017 was it? As the...
I got the Team Logo Award in 2016 at the Galleries of Justice for the name and logo. And then in, I think it was 2018, I got Best Male Investigator from the Netherlands.
Right, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, we've got, isn't it? Gert
Bauer, yeah.
Yeah, Gert Bauer. Yeah, he's been on the show. Yeah, he's quite a character, isn't he?
Oh, yes. I mean, he came over to us, and I took him to Nottingham Castle because he'd never seen the place, and he was quite taken. Actually, we went into the caves, which was a great thing for him. So, while he stayed with me for several days, he actually saw parts of Nottingham and places that I like to go.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's a lovely town, actually, Nottingham. It's very interesting.
Not if you live here.
Not if you... Oh, right. Oh, okay. I suppose it's not... Well, not to... It's not... Well, okay. I'll say no more then.
One of them things, where you live sometimes, you'd sooner be somewhere else.
Right. Okay.
Don't get me wrong, it's got nice... It has got some nice places, but... yeah. It's a city, and I like the countryside.
Yeah, and no, I do know what you mean, but I suppose when you visit in a place, because of the history value, that's what I'm thinking of. It's got a lot of history there, because it's Robin Hood country, isn't it? Or, did Robin Hood exist, do you reckon?
Pardon?
Do you think Robin Hood existed?
Oh, I believe he was a real man. I mean, there is two names that have always been thrown out there, and... The chances are it was definitely a real man, but was it how the stories are told? I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
The rich giving to the poor. It makes you wonder.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you get the same sort of stories with people like Jesse James and Billy the Kid, don't you? And they weren't quite like that either.
Well, there's lots of different stories about Billy the Kid, isn't there? I mean, some actually people thought he was part of the Masons.
Yeah. No, Jesse James. That was. There was a show.
Oh, Jesse James. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, there was a program on Discovery Channel. Was it Discovery or the History Channel? One of the two. And it was really interesting. There's all the things that I didn't know about.
Yeah, I mean, I think Josh Gates did one about Jesse James, and then there was another one with two other guys who was following the trail, and they'd seen the Masonic symbols and the double J. So, yeah, there's quite a lot which doesn't get told in history.
No. All that, they like lots of gold hidden and everything that's, after the Civil War. It's quite amazing. Really interesting.
But they never knew exactly how much he stole either.
No. But, anyway, we digressed a little bit there, but...
yeah, sorry.
It's all interesting, though, and it's interesting stuff. It's what,
it all leads to the paranormal, because people have been trying to get in touch with his spirit to see if they're on the right track, if his energies are in the caves. So they still try today, from what I'm led to believe. But they also reckon that he lived to a right old age as well.
Yeah, that's right. And also there are supernatural connections, aren't there? Like paranormal connections to the Masons anyway, if you want to take it all the way back to how they began.
Well, yeah, because they come from the Templars.
Yeah.
And if you think the Templars are in superstition in a way, Friday the 13th was born from the Templars.
Anyway, so Paul, what do you think your most interesting case would be going back?
God, I'll be honest. Since 2016, every single case we've done has been interesting. The one I shown you the other day, the shadow person, that is from a museum in Cambridge. That day was the first investigation that my son came on, and he was pushed in the tea room, which was witnessed by the lady who was there to monitor us for the museum. And then he was also poked in the back, which was caught on camera, which I have got on YouTube, which was quite funny because it shows myself walking away from him just as he holds his back and goes, ow. When we got outside, I said to him, let me have a quick look. And he'd got a red mark on his back, and I said to him, what happened? And he went, you poked me in the back. He said, well, did you use a nail? I went, I never touched you. And it probably about an hour later is when I caught the shadow person on the camera. If I'm taking photos on a location, I'll always take 5 or 6 photos in the same position.
Yeah, that's what I do.
I'll never take one because one doesn't show anything. If you've got multiple pictures in the same spot and something's caught on one of them, you can ask a question. Luckily, all the photos was what are called live photos, which was done on the iPhone. So it records for 2 seconds, takes a photo, records again for 2 seconds. And I was just lucky I caught that. And again, that shadow came from behind a wall.
So before he went on that evening, was he a believer? Did he believe in it, or did he not?
I think he did, but to me, he would deny it. I know he'd seen something before in a pub he used to work in, but he wouldn't accept it. He is quite sensitive, and a few of the investigations we've been on, the medium I work with, who's a very good friend, Danny Wheeler, Danny's always says to me, your Brandon's quite open. And there's been many a time Danny has turned around and said, right, can we put Brandon in that room and let me just ask some questions? And some of the responses we've had have been, well, I can't really explain because they blew us away. We sat in a room, and we'd got Brandon on a room on the top floor of a building in Nottingham for this one. And Danny had said to him, "Have you got toothache?" And Brandon radioed down and says, "Well, I have got a little toothache. I've had a tooth which has been bugging me for a few days." And he says, "Is it on your top of your right-hand side?" Brandon just turned and said, "Well, yeah, how did you know?" He said, "Because there's a little girl, she's rubbing your face." And Brandon had just radioed down to say that the room had gone very, very cold. So it was just things like that.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Yeah, so is he a believer now?
Oh, yeah, I believe he is now. Now he's witnessed things and seen things. On his first investigation at the museum in Cambridge, we'd had the night, and we was just locking the building up, and the stable block was the last place that we would lock up, and that is the place that we caught the shadow. And there was myself, Brandon, and the two ladies who was there from the museum, and we were just talking outside, and one of the ladies had said to me, "Will you lock the stable block up for us and put the alarm on?" She says, "Because every time you come and we go in and put the alarm on, within 20 minutes the alarm's going off." And we put the alarm on, I locked all the doors, and at the back of the barn is a big fire escape with a large fire door at the top. And just after we'd set the alarm, something hit this fire door so hard, the sound was deafening. And Brandon ran. He ran to the car. And from that night on, he was known as Shaggy, because he ran like Shaggy and Scooby-Doo.
Oh, right.
And so that night frightened him. But by the time we'd got from Cambridge to Nottingham, the fright had turned into excitement.
Yeah, what the hell was that? Yeah.
And it was, when can I come out again with you?
Well, did you investigate the noise, or was it something that you couldn't explain?
We didn't go back in because the time was up and we had to leave. That's why we just locked up. Which I was gutted, because I've done that place probably 3 or 4 times before then, and I've never had that response. But I've done it 5 or 6 times since, and the museum has changed. It has gone, I'm going to use the word very, very dark, up until this rubbish that's happened over the last 18 months.
Which we won't go into.
I'm looking forward, because I'm back there in September.
Oh, right.
So I've been attacked there twice.
Have you? I mean, knowing the place, was there something that could have caused that big bang that you know of? You know, something that might have fallen.
That's where the shadow person was.
Was falling over or something like that. Because I mean, that's the sort of thing we've got to look at first, isn't it? You know, to see what it could have been.
There is literally nothing in that room that could hit that door.
Right.
Everything in that room is mannequins, which are standing up. They're in like little alcoves. So the door is the length of a corridor, and in front of the door, about 10 feet away, are glass cases with medals in and objects of silver spoons. On the wall next to the door is prosthetic limbs from World War I and World War II.
Right. Yeah, I was just trying to, and obviously there was nobody there behind you either, so I wonder what that was.
Again, on the same night, myself and Danny was using a Tibetan singing bowl that night to put some energy into the room. And we watched this shadow figure jumping out from behind the wall as if it was playing hide and seek with us. And I kept saying, right, it's come out, it's gone back in, it's gone out, it's come back in. And the next thing I said, whoa, it's stopped out, it's not gone back in. And Danny jumped on me. And now Danny's 6'2", 6'3", ex-footballer. And so he's quite well built. And by this time I was laughing, like, what are you doing? And he turned around and he says to me, I wasn't ready for it. And I said, wasn't ready for what? And one of the prosthetic arms was swinging on the wall. Now we were standing 18 inches away from the wall, but this arm had touched him in the back. Oh. And it was at the same moment in time I'd said, this thing hasn't gone back in. So I don't know what energy this shadow has in there, but you've seen yourself from the video. It went from translucent to full-bodied.
Yeah. Well, what I'll do, Paul, with your permission, I'll put that on the Paranormal Dimensions page so anyone looking at the page can see what we're talking about.
Yeah. That's no problem. It's there for people to see. I'll be honest, I had put it out on forums before because I thought it was a great capture, and I've had a lot of positive comments on it, but again I've also had a lot of the, I'm going to say, silly comments, where people, I don't think they realise how a shadow's cast, telling me that it was dust on the camera lens and it was people on the opposite side of the room. Well, it can't be, because a shadow's not formed like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think you get these sort of comments from people that don't really know much about probably what you do anyway.
Yeah, the biggest thing I've always told the team, and it's something I live by, I always explain to them, never ever fake activity, because the only person you're faking is yourself.
Yeah.
If you want to fake something, you don't need to be part of my team. I want to find something that's real.
Yeah.
And luckily, over the last 5 years, some of the things I've found I can't explain, and I know there's something there. And that's not just paranormal ghost hunting, that is things I've seen in the sky as well.
Right. What, UFOs you talked about?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit about UFOs towards the end, but I was going to say, what do you actually believe that, are they ghosts or are they people from other dimensions, do you think? That
This is a $64 million question, isn't it?
Yeah.
End of the day, until we can actually break that barrier down, we'll never know. We all know that when we die, we give an energy source off. Our energy leaves this shell it's in. Where does that energy go? I don't know. Does it go back into another dimension? Does it just stay where it is? Now again, you're asking about different dimensions. Is there different vibrations as well?
Yeah, that's right.
It sounds silly, and I think DC Comics and Marvel Comics have hit on it in several of the films and series just like that, where they call the multiverse, which is the same Earth but on different vibrations. And when things are right, or something's been breached, some things come through from one dimension into the other.
Yeah.
So is that happening with us. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
they tend to know more than they actually let on, don't they? With some of these things they put out on, I think they put these things in film so they can just say, "Oh, it's just a film."
Yeah. I can remember, the early 90s, mid 90s, early 90s, when the X-Files first came out, and I think if you watched, especially the first 3 series of the X-Files, there was so much in that which, with the UFO side more than anything, which is so plausible.
Mm.
And there was it was, and some of the strange ghost anomalies, they managed in the series to debunk a lot of it. But there was also things that got you thinking.
Yeah. That's what I said earlier. You've got to debunk things first. Before you're left with, there's no answer to that. So it's got to be paranormal. You've got to find out first if it was something normal.
That's right. I mean, we did a place in Skegness called The Village, and again, I've done that place several times, and we was there one night, and there was only, I think, 4 of the team who went, because we'd been asked if we could do a birthday party for somebody, for an investigation for them. And we've said yes. I mean, like I said, we're not a public events team, but if somebody asks us if we can help them do something, we'll do it with pleasure. All our services are free, so it makes no difference to us. And when we got there, it was just 3 people, and it was 3 of these people who were volunteers at the museum.
Right.
So there were 7 of us there that night. And this is one of those places where the fewer the people, the more activity you get. Because if there's too many people, it can't frighten. If there's only a few, it thinks it can frighten.
Right.
And we'd got doors opening and closing that night, all on all caught on camera when there's nobody in a building. One of them was an attic door, which by the end of the night you had to actually put your full body weight on to actually lock it. But this door closed and locked itself with a latch that it didn't have.
Well, do you feel that those spirits, whatever they are out to frighten you then?
I think there's some that are, but I don't know if it's because they want to make contact, and every time they've tried to make contact, people have got frightened. They've ran, they've screamed.
Which I always find that a little bit weird, really, because people have gone on a ghost hunt to actually investigate something, and then as soon as something happens, they start screaming and running away. I don't quite understand that.
I think that's hyped up by the TV.
Right.
A lot of people watch the shows on TV, American and British, and as soon as something happens, they scream, they shout, they run. But why? That's the whole point of going there, is to hear something or to see something and then go forward and try and find it.
Exactly, yeah.
Not to go for the nearest exit.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of people being hurt a little bit, maybe on a investigation, such as yourself. You said you've been attacked, but I've never really heard of anyone being seriously hurt. Have you?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, the thing that I say I was attacked in Cambridge, one was I just got a scratch on my arm, which I didn't even feel until the next day, but whatever had scratched me had gone through 3 layers of clothing.
Yeah, I've seen that happen myself. Not to me, but to somebody else. That's really weird, isn't it?
It is, and yeah, I wasn't feeling in the best of health that night. I'd got a bit of a cold, but it was draining me. The cold was, but because I didn't want to let the team down, we still did the investigation. And but the following time we went, there's a bungalow on the site as well, and unbeknown to me at that time, it was the bungalow which the gentleman who created the museum was born in and was raised. And I was talking with the lady there, and we was laughing and joking, and I was sitting on the bed in the bedroom, and I was just being a little bit tomfoolerish, saying, I'd love to sleep in here, can we do an overnighter, can we? And then the next thing, I started getting pins and needles in my left arm. I started to get pains in my chest. And then I got a sudden feeling of dread, as if my life was passing before my eyes. And she asked me what was wrong, and I explained to her. And then she explained to me that the gentleman who created the museum was conceived, as horrible as it sounds, in the bed I was sitting on, and he died a couple of months earlier in a light plane crash that he was flying. Was he telling me not to be disrespectful in his house? Most probably. Or did he show me how he went through his last few minutes? I don't know. But that was one of the weirdest experiences there I've had.
So yourself, are you at all psychic? Or, I mean, I suppose we've all got a little bit of this, like, well, I don't consider myself a talk psychic, but we always get these inclinations, don't we? And
yeah, I mean, I've always said I'm not. I've always said I'm not as sensitive, I'm not intuitive, I'm not a medium. But several mediums who I've spoken to have all told me I am. I just don't know how to use it or how to control it.
Yeah.
But I would even say today to that question, no. But sometimes I just seem to know that we're asking the wrong question. If we're at an investigation and we're asking, something will be in the back of my mind saying, look, we're asking the wrong question. We need to be asking something like this. And then we'll change the questioning, and we might get a response, we might not.
I mean, I'll talk about myself again for a minute, but by a couple of mediums, I've actually been told that I've got the power of healing, although I've never used it or anything. But I mean, I don't consider myself psychic or anything like that, as I've said. But whether it's true or not about the power of healing, I don't know. I know my hands are always hot.
Yeah. Now the funny thing is, this is what the last medium told me.
Right.
This was in May this year. It was the first time I'd met this guy. I'd gone to investigate a house in West Bromwich, and the person whose house it was, he's actually an investigator with another team, but I've worked alongside him. He's come out with Secret Hauntings since 2017, since Essex. We formed quite a good friendship, so he comes out with Secret Hauntings as well. And he told me his house was haunted and said, like, I'd like you to come and investigate it because I trust you, I know how you work. And he introduced me to this medium he's been working with, and he's a medium who actually draws what he sees as well. And he'd actually said to me, you can heal, which, a bit like yourself, I laughed. And he turned around and he put his left hand out, and he said, just put your left hand above my hand, which I did. and I got electric shock.
Yeah, I've had that feeling too. I mean, my hands are always warm, you know.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if that means anything, but
I don't know, but he explained the healing to me. He said it's not like people think of the healing. You won't just lay hands on somebody and they'll get up and walk. He said the healing is people will just come and talk to you and tell you their problems. And after they've spoke to you, you'll answer them. And then they'll go away feeling better. That's the healing.
Wow.
So next time someone comes to you who you don't know, or a friend, and just like, oh God, I'm having a really bad time, and you'll listen to them and you'll just say something and you'll just think you're giving them friendly advice.
Yeah.
But that is how he explained it to me, the healing side.
Well, I'll tell you, while you're talking about that, the funny thing is I've had strangers come up to me, you know, I'm not kidding you here, come up and speak. I say, I need to speak to you. You know, I told you I recently moved to Canvey Island in Essex, and I used to keep seeing this fella in the mornings when he used to walk the dogs, and he sort of just said good morning, you know. And then one day he came up to me and said, I've got to speak to you. He said, you know, and I said, oh, okay, then, well, yeah, well, I sort of said to him, my name's David and all that, and, you know, and, yeah, he said, I just got this feeling I need to talk to you, and I said, oh, that's all right, and he started talking about paranormal things, and I said, well, I don't know if you know, you probably don't know this, but I do a paranormal show, which is this, and he said, you don't, do you? And I said, yeah, I mean, it's called Paranormal Dimensions. He said, you don't. He said, I listened to that. And I said, oh really? I said, well, I'm David Young. And he said, you're David Young? He said, yeah. He said, I listened to that. That's weird, isn't it? How that happens. I mean, that has never happened to me before. You think, well, you're doing this show, you don't really think you're ever going to sort of meet a stranger that actually listens to it, you know. It's,
no, that's true.
But it was really weird that he said he was drawn to me before he even realised that it was that paranormal show that he listens to. And then he told me a bit more about his history. He actually came round my house for a few hours. We invited him round because he lives sort of on a boat actually on Canvey. And he was there for about 7 hours telling us about, and he's done a lot of shamanism and everything like that in his old days. So I think that's why he was kind of drawn to me for some reason. I don't know what, but
I wonder if you was because I'm sure when I was talking with this guy in May, he kept saying to me, "You're giving the aura purple off." So I'm wondering if, with him doing what he did, that you was actually giving an aura off that he actually picked up on.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be. But he did say he was just drawn to me, but, you know, not in the funny way, you know, but he just wanted to talk to me. So that was really, I thought that it sort of blew my mind a little bit, you know. But
that's the thing with the paranormal. It does blow your mind when everything rational that you can think of is blown away.
The thing is, telling the story, it sounds like you're blowing your trumpet of it, but I'm not. I'm actually telling you exactly what happened, you know. It's, in fact, I'm hoping to get him on the show one day to actually do a show with me. So he said, yeah, he would do, but he's got to get his head together somehow, so.
I'll be honest, just to slightly change, what actually really drew me to the paranormal was, when I was 17, my parents moved from Nottingham down to the East Coast, and I stayed in the family home. But that family home had some sort of energy there, and it was what I referred to as a mimic. Now this thing anybody who walked into the house and spoke, this thing would hear them speak. It would mimic their voice perfectly. And there were many times I'd be in bed, I would hear my inner front door open, then the front door open, my alarm system be turned off, and then I'd hear my mum and my dad shout up and saying, "It's okay, Paul, it's only us, we've just come to spend a few days with you." And I'd be like, yeah. And then I'd hear the living room door open, then they'd say something else to me, and then I'd get very, very cold, and I'd get frightened because I think that can't be happening because that's not there. And then after a few minutes, the feeling would subside and go. And I told my parents, and my mum, she believes in this because of things she witnessed when I was a baby. And my dad is always, no, there's no such thing as ghosts, there's no such thing as this. And I came home from work one morning, and he'd come over to visit, and he asked me, I'd come in at 7 o'clock, and he said, where have you been? I said, I've just come home from work. He says, no, you was home at 2:30 this morning. I was speaking to you through the door for half an hour.
Oh, God.
And I went, that wasn't me. He said, well, if it wasn't you, who was it? I went, you tell me. And he says, no, it was you. You must have gone back to work.
Yeah.
So this thing was, it knew how and when to do what it did.
Yeah, very weird.
So that has always drawn me to the paranormal, and luckily it became a passion.
Yeah. Have you ever done or tried anything like astral travel or anything like that?
The group that I was in before I set Secret Hauntings up, the lady wanted to try things like that, but I can't clear my mind. My head's always racing. It's as if there's 1,000,001 voices there all the time.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that myself.
So I struggle to sleep, and so yeah, it's something I've never been able to do or even really get involved with.
Or to know that you're doing. I mean, I think we probably all do it in our sleep.
Well, yeah, seeing as when we're asleep, it's the closest point to death that we'll ever have before we die. But again, it's like when you're asleep and you're dreaming and you remember a dream. Is that a form of fortune telling?
Yeah.
Do you see things that are going to happen? It's another question. Now, is the astral planing part of that?
Yeah. Something that makes me think there was something in that, because I had a dream once. Well, it was supposedly a dream. And in this dream, someone was telling me all about vibrations. He was laughing, saying it's all in the vibrations and everything. And that's when I sort of woke up at the start. And I thought, what was that all about? You know.
But then again, now you've said that, if you think of vibrations, are the vibrations the way to open the dimensional portals? So them saying to you, it's the vibrations. Are they saying to you, that is the way to open it up?
Yeah.
I know that when we use the singing bowls, the night we caught the shadow person was the first night we'd used the singing bowls. So had we, with the pitch that singing bowl was giving us, actually just hit the right vibration, which brought this shadow person in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all I can say is that dream, it was as if someone was actually telling me all about something, you know, and, but I remember waking up in the start, because he was like laughing and saying it's all in the vibrations, well, whether it was just my mind playing tricks on me or not, but it really did sort of startle me.
But then again, you remembered it. So
oh yeah, I remembered it. Yeah, it wasn't all that long ago either. It was only like I don't know, probably maybe 10, 15 years ago, something like that. So
therefore, it must have been important.
Yeah, it might have been my awakening to where I was going, you know, where I am now, sort of thing, you know, because it's only been sort of like the last, I don't know, 10 or 12 maybe years where I've really started. I mean, I've always been interested in the paranormal, read books and all the rest of it, but I've never really sort of got into wanting to do anything like a radio show or anything like that, you know. I never dreamed of it, you know. I was just sort of pulled into it by accident, really, you know. So maybe it was all heading for that direction from that point.
Probably. I mean, I'm a big believer in people meet for a reason. So there's probably every chance that over the last 10, 15 years that some of the people you have met and got onto the show, that's what you was destined for.
Yeah. To
bring their stories out that any other way would not have been out there for people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, personally, I do feel that the way things have tumbled into place over the last sort of probably 10, 12 years has really made it look like that, to be honest. I mean, I would never have dreamt, for instance, I'd be a good friend of Colonel Charles Holt, you know. I mean, I'd actually read about him and heard his tape and all that many years ago, you know, and then to suddenly fall into the point where, you know, he's a friend of mine, it's actually crazy, you know.
Do you know what? I have the exact same thing. Go back to 2016 when I met yourself, and I met Barry Fitzgerald.
Oh yeah, Barry. Yeah.
Who was on the GHR. Barry's one of my best friends now.
Is he really? He's a nice person.
Yeah.
I like Barry.
I'm supposed to be going back out to his house in September this year, and I was at his last year, and the year before that.
Oh, excellent. I will say hello for me and ask him if he'll come on my show, because I don't think he's on Facebook anymore, is he?
No, but I'll be talking to him tomorrow anyway.
Right.
So I'll pass it on. And
yeah, he was. I
messaged him earlier on because he knew I was on tonight, so he sent me good wishes for tonight.
Ah, right. Because he was on my Facebook friend list, but then he suddenly disappeared. I think he came straight off of Facebook altogether. So,
yeah, I think a lot of it was, I think there's too many idiots on Facebook, like you know yourself.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say me for
no.
No, I do know what you mean. Yeah.
But we do.
It takes up so much of your time on stupid things. I know exactly what you're saying.
We do have a Facebook page for him, which myself and him both run, basically.
Oh, do you? Oh, will you add me to it? I didn't know you had one like.
Yeah, I'll send you a like, and then if you like it, and then you can just private message it.
Yeah, sure, that'd be brilliant.
He answers straight away. Normally.
Yeah, he'll probably know who I am because I've met him a couple of times. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, I should imagine you to be able to talk about UFOs till the cows come home.
Yeah. Well, and all these other paranormal investigations that he's done around Ireland and that, which fascinates me.
Oh yeah, I'll be honest. He probably lives in one of the biggest UFO hotspots. I mean, that was in his back garden when I saw what I saw, and to this day I still cannot register it.
Really? Yeah, tell us about it. Yeah. Let's start talking about UFOs. Well, tell us about it.
Well, it said to me like that it flashed a light into the sky, and it was one of our mutual friends who lives in the southern part of Ireland. I'd gone down to see him first, and we were talking, and he said like, has Barry shown you the lights? And I'm like, no. And he went, oh, get him to show you the lights. So I said, okay. And we were sitting out, and it'd be about 11 o'clock at night. And Donna, his wife, she'd just gone back in to get some more drinks. And Barry just said, he said, they'll answer us now. And I went, okay. And I'm thinking, what's he on about? He'll answer us. And he just flashed a light into the sky 3 times. And within 20 seconds, there was 3 bright white pulses. And then this thing just went from right to left, and it was gone. It was out of sight within a second. Now, was it a plane? No. Because within a minute, it did the same thing from the back of us and was gone again.
Yeah, I hear that quite a lot. It seems that you can actually call them up, doesn't it, somehow, or communicate with them like that.
Yeah. I cannot explain in words on how, well, my brain still can't accept it. Even though I can accept it. It's still there, like it was impossible for what happened. But to watch this light go probably miles and miles out of the way within a millisecond was incredible. Now, you know yourself, if it's a plane going across, you'll have a red light flashing, and this was just 3 pure white pulses and then gone.
I mean, I think we've all looked at the sky, I think, what's that? And all of a sudden you think, oh, it's just a plane. You know, I've done that so many times, you know. Yeah,
I mean, if someone said to me, oh, it was a satellite, yeah, the satellite we'd watch go over, and the satellite went the opposite way. Right. Satellite went from left to right, this went from right to left. And it then was at the back of us, and then again 3 white lights, and then gone again, and that was it. We never saw it again.
Interesting. Was it silent as well?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and I don't think you'd have heard it anyway, because it was like looking at a star. It was that high up. So, again, people could say, oh, it was a shooting star. No, because a shooting star won't just be stationary, then move.
No, that's right. Well, I mean, I've told this story a couple of times on here. You might not have heard it, Paul, but when I was a kid, I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, I was sitting on my steps when I lived in London. I'm sorry about if you've heard this before, if you're listening to it.
No, I'm
talking about my audience out there. But I was actually sitting on the steps, I was actually watching this star move and stop and move and stop. Now, I'm talking about around about the late 50s. You know, there weren't any satellites and things flying about up there. And I just thought, you know, as a kid, I just thought, oh, it's a star moving. But of course, when I was in my teen years, I thought, well, what the hell was that I was looking at that was moving? You know, it was moving and stopping and moving and stopping. So there's something that's always stuck with me, that has. You know,
so that would have been round about the time then that, going back towards the American side, when they'd opened up their Project Blue Book, and part of the UK where they was investigating then, but it was all kept quiet.
Yeah. I've never even thought of that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because
it was also around if you was in London, then it was around the capital. And from what I've read and things I've seen on those things, these objects was all being seen around the capital cities.
Yeah, because of course it would have been about probably about 10 or 11 years after Roswell and all that sort of stuff, wouldn't it? So all that, yeah. I've never thought of that, to be honest. But I mean,
but then again, was Roswell a ruse for something that happened so many miles away?
Yeah, that's kind of debatable, isn't it? I mean, we have done this a few times on this show. I actually think there was a crash and they did take bodies, but we just don't know because we weren't there. So it's just one of those things you just sort of read about and try and sort of come to your best
conclusion. And that's
conclusion.
The thing. Yeah, I mean, that statement you've just said then is something that I use quite often when you'll watch footage that somebody's put up about the paranormal, or you can watch one of these shows, and the first thing I will say is, I can't say it was real or it's been faked because I wasn't there. So that is a very good statement to use.
That's right. I mean, really, it's like when, as I said about Colonel Holt, he's told me that something was happening in the sky. You know, he still says he doesn't know what it was. He just describes what he saw. So he's not coming out and saying it was aliens, although I think he said it could have been some sort of a mothership or something. I think he did on one comment, but he's never actually said it was like UFO. He just said it was strange lights in the sky flying about, and it was shooting laser beams down as well at some point. So, but he still says he doesn't know what it was. So
yeah, that is quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously that was a separate event to the landing event in the woods with Jim Penniston and John Burroughs. And obviously, when that report was put in, the next day, Colonel Holt himself actually thought it was a joke. When it was put in the book and everything, and they were just trying to brush it all away, trying to make up an excuse for it. And of course, when it happened on the third night, let's call it the third night, because there were 3 incidents, but there's only like 2 famous ones. And he went out into the field with his little team of people to actually find out what all the nonsense was about. That was kind of let's go and settle this nonsense and find out what's going on. And of course they were witnesses themselves to their own event.
Which is what a memory to have.
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, he took, I think it was just last, or the year before last, he took us to where the actual landing took place, as he remembered it. But even he can't really remember the exact area where it was. But you've been to Rendlesham Woods, have you, Paul? They've got like a little, they've got a UFO monument sitting on a little hill there. But that is not where the landing was. I think they've just found like a little convenient hill to put this monument on, just and a clearing sort of thing. But that's not actually where the landing was. And people think that that's where the landing was, but it wasn't.
That was probably their main idea, to put that there to keep people away from where the actual landing was.
Yeah, because there's no markings where the actual landing was supposed to have been anyway. But there is a UFO trail that goes around the woods. But that UFO trail doesn't really take you to where the actual landing was. Kind of, it sort of bypasses it quite a bit. So
the question is, though, where the landing was, is there any energy readings still there today?
Yeah,
magnetic
I don't think so. There was a little bit of a to-do with somebody we took to that area who was taking some readings, and he seems to think there were some readings. But I think the whole area's got some sort of, because it was a military base and they had sort of nuclear stuff going on, so you don't know.
So there could be some.
You don't know all around that area. Yeah, in a light sort of way. But again, I'm not an expert in that, so I wouldn't know, to be honest. But there you go.
But, if you look at history today, if you've moved on from early 50s to where we are now, and the way technology over the last 50 years has gone crazy, the things that we have, I'm going to say Gene Roddenberry, what an inspiration for everything that they had on Star Trek, with the touch screens and FaceTime.
Yeah, but did he have some secret knowledge of all that, I wonder?
That's the question.
Because we do get theories that a lot of things they use in films, as I said to you, they suggest things in films and put them in films because they know what's going on, but they're sort of putting it in your face type of thing, but not actually saying it's true. But saying it's possible, I suppose, if you see where I'm going.
Yeah, but if you look at the film, if I can remember it, of the Third Kind.
Close Encounters of
the Third Kind. Who was one of the people they used on the film?
Yeah, that's right.
It was the guy from the Project Blue book, Alan.
Yeah.
They used him as.
Put me on the spot now.
I can't think of his last name.
Yeah, I can't think of his name either.
They used him as like a technical advisor.
That's right, I know. I remember seeing the clip with him in it. I think that's probably one of the last things he did as well, wasn't it? I think he died shortly after that.
Yeah, not long after, yeah. But going back to what I was going to say is, why are the governments now still keeping it secrets? We've got films of sci-fis, we've got Star Treks, we've got Star Wars. Why are they keeping all these sightings or everything hidden?
Yeah.
Do they think that we can cope with it? Or, again, is this because it's an agenda?
Yeah. Well, apparently, I mean, they keep saying they've released loads of files into the public domain. And yes, they have released thousands of files, and if you go through, I mean, I haven't gone through them personally, but I've seen one or two bits and pieces of them, and there are some real gems in there. And, to that respect, I think disclosure from that point of view has actually already happened. It's just that it's like putting a splinter in a forest, looking for it. It's actually finding that splinter in a forest, But there are a lot of things in those files and things that they've released that actually point to strange things going on.
But you would think, especially with the International Space Station, on what they must be seeing and capturing.
Strange you mentioned that. Did you listen to last week's show?
No, not at the moment.
James Welsh.
I've got that to do when I'm on nights at work.
Yeah, try and have a listen to James Welsh's show, because his book, which he brought out, which was the guest on last week's show, called Corroborating Evidence, well, he found alien activity around the space station.
Which wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and he documented it quite a lot in the book, and he's actually been doing a lot of research further on from that book, so the show was called Beyond Corroborating Evidence. I can't get my tongue around it. But yeah, it's quite an interesting show to have a listen to.
But yeah, I'll definitely have a listen to that one, because you can't tell me that these astronauts cannot be sitting up there for months and months at a time and not be seeing anything.
Yeah. Well, we do hear that quite a few of the space shots, they did actually have aliens following them. I've heard, certainly on some of them, that they were tailing the crafts and everything. So even on the first one, the Apollo 11, when they landed.
Yeah, I mean, Apollo 11, that was the moon landing, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some people out there that might argue that we never did go to the moon, but I don't believe that.
I'm a bit on the fence with it as well. But then there's things I've seen where there's supposed to be the 4 lost minutes between Neil Armstrong and ground control, where he supposedly says that there's several craft all parked on the edge of a crater just watching. If they'd release that sort of would give more credibility to it.
Yeah, well, who knows, maybe one day.
I mean, what have they got to hide? That's the question.
Yeah. Well, they don't, I mean, I think the whole thing about that is they don't want you to realise that there's things flying around in airspaces that they can't do anything about. I think that's kind of the bottom line as far as that goes.
Well, yeah, but they put it in films, so they're already making you aware via films. Yeah,
that's true. But and there's also the other argument that they do know what's going on with some of the alien races that are visiting us, and they've got special deals with them. So, I suppose you can take that with it, like.
Yeah, well, if you think, where did all our technology come from in such a very, very short space of time?
Yeah. Well, that's where you go back to Roswell. I mean, there was a book called The Day After Roswell, written by Colonel Corso. I think it's come into a little bit of criticism. But in that book he states that that's where they got the things like microelectronics, lasers. Apparently they picked up a thing that looked like a torch, somebody did. And they sort of shone it, and it cut through a piece of paper or a card or whatever it was. Now, when you start thinking about the cattle mutilations that have happened over the years, a lot of those mutilations seem to have been done with like a laser. So maybe that was some kind of a tool that they used. When you start adding those things together.
Well, yeah, because the cattle mutilations leave no blood trail. Everything is cauterized.
So, you know, it's and also when you think about lasers, they kind of suddenly appeared, didn't they? In I think the first time I really heard of everyone using a laser was in Goldfinger, wasn't it? The James Bond film. They seemed to have suddenly come into the psyche, didn't they?
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
In fact, no. Didn't they have them in the TV series UFO?
Did they? I can't remember. Yeah, that I used to like that as well. Yeah, I know the one you mean.
I'm sure,
Straker.
like the alien crafts would be firing either like a laser or a plasma.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I mean, but that was later than the Goldfinger film, wasn't it? So.
Yeah, so I'm thinking 70s for Goldfinger, but it wasn't, was it?
No, it was 64. So,
64,
of course, I think UFO was around the late 60s, about 67, 68, wasn't it? I think, if I'm right.
Yeah.
It might have been a bit later.
And then again, if you think, when you've got Thunderbirds and the Stingrays and Captain Scarlet as well, they was late 60s as well.
That's right.
Again, and they was using, even though it was a kids' puppet show, that they was using technology that and it should not really have been thought on at the time.
No, that's right. I mean, I think in the earlier science fiction things, you had things like they had a death ray or something, didn't they? They didn't actually call it a laser, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was in like what was that? Oh God, can't think what it was called now. Anyway, but they did a remake of it. But the old oh God, what was it called? Flash Gordon. I was trying to think of. I think they had things like that, didn't they? Then it was like a big death ray, wasn't it? They had.
Yeah, Ming was aiming it at the Earth. Yeah.
But, I mean, I'll tell you a little bit about that. My bigger UFO event was in 60. I think it was 67. I always thought it was 66, but I believe it was 67. I saw a big oval orange object going across the sky in Essex, where I used to live. Well, I lived there then, but I'm back here again now, which was quite startling to me. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I was coming home from a girlfriend's house. Yeah, it was a big oval orange object pulsating across the sky. It wasn't like a bright light, it was like an incandescent light, you know, and it was all kind of different shades of orange, and that was completely silent. So, that was my big sighting.
No, I think the only, well, like I explained what I saw last year in Ireland, but in got to be about 2004, I was travelling back from Mablethorpe in Lincolnshire. It'd be about 5 o'clock in the morning because I was heading back to Nottingham. And as I got to a little village called Louth, it's only 20 minutes away from Mablethorpe, I was driving up onto the bypass road, and I just noticed in the sky that there was a silver object, and it wasn't a plane. It was too big for a plane, but it looked like a cigar cylinder. And I was talking with Malcolm about this in Essex in 2017, and it was a time when your mobile phones was just getting the cameras on, and but it was one of those things where by the time I'd managed to pull over, get the phone and set the brick up to take the photo, this thing was gone.
Yeah.
And I could never explain it. But all I could explain was it was just a cigar-shaped cylinder which was silver. There was no... But it was probably the size of 2 jumbo jets.
Yeah, I mean that's quite exciting, isn't it? The cylinder.
So I've heard, but I was talking with a friend the other week because I work in Leicester, so I have to travel to Leicester each day, and I'm normally travelling down the A46 at 4:45, 5 o'clock in the morning when I'm on day shift.
Well, you than me.
And yeah. Again, I'd got the phone on the dashboard, and I just saw a bright light in the sky, and I couldn't describe it at first, and I couldn't really set the phone to record because of being on the 46 and driving at 70 mile an hour as you're allowed. But then by the time I'd got to a clearing where there was a parking lay-by to pull into, the thing was gone. And it wasn't until I got to work, I was thinking, what have I just seen? Was it a triangle? But it wasn't. By the time I composed and got my thoughts, it was like a letter T, but upside down. And it was just pure white light. Can I explain what it was? No. It wasn't a fuselage of an aeroplane, because it was too big, it was too far away, and it was too bright. And we know that a plane again has red and green lights, but I still can't explain that. And I don't know what I saw, but this light was there, and within seconds it was gone.
Yeah, so like a T, was it? Well, I've heard of like flying crucifixes in the past.
Yeah, but this was an upside down T, so you'd got the flat at the bottom. It was a capital T, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So you got the flat at the bottom and then straight up.
Well, we've got nothing like that flying around, have we?
No, and the light was as bright as any brighter than any LED I've seen, halogen. Because I go past a wind farm as well, and I'm thinking to myself, right, was it one of the windmills? But no, because they're the Mercedes sign, they're the three-finned, and none of them give a flat surface, and this had a flat surface.
Very interesting.
And what I did say to myself after that day is, I will always keep the phone when I'm going to work at that time in the morning onto video mode.
Right, so you just grab it and that's the thing though, whenever you've got a camera ready, nothing happens, does it?
No, and I used to have the dash cam in the car, but probably for the last year I took it out because there wasn't many cars on the road for some strange reason. I don't know why, but there hasn't been many cars on the road.
Yeah, weird. Anyway, what have you got planned for now? Now we can all start going places again for a little while, anyway. what have you got planned?
Well, at the moment we haven't got a lot planned because you know yourself, it changes from day to day with, unfortunately, the people we've got in charge. Yeah. But I've got.
See, it wouldn't stop me. I'd go anywhere, but the thing is, you've got to go somewhere. It's got to be open, isn't it? That's the problem.
That's the thing. I've got the follow-up investigation of the house I did in West Brom. I've got that in 2 weeks' time.
Oh, good. Right.
Because when I went last time, he told me that people have witnessed or felt there were certain energies in the house. Luckily for me, I caught them on camera.
Right.
He said to me that somebody had said that there was a little girl in the house, that there's a male in the house, and on 3 cameras that was all within 2 meters of each other, all at the same time, they've caught a little girl asking for mummy. Bearing in mind there was no kids in the house, no kids outside. And this girl, I would say, is about the age of 4.
That's sad, really, isn't it?
It is, but talking and listening to the medium and good friend and listening to other mediums, they'll always tell you that a spirit can come back at any age it wants, at whatever it felt happy at. So an energy might die at 90, but it might come back as a 20-year-old.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, it's never really crossed my mind, or I've never really heard that from anyone else. It's, but yeah, I guess if you're a life force of some sort, you could choose to come back and appear as to whatever you wanted, couldn't you?
Yeah.
I've never really thought about that before.
Plus the little girl, because he hasn't really had any other things caught of her, the thing I was concerned about was it just residual? And was I lucky enough to be there at the right time, on the right day, to catch that residual? But I also caught her laughing later in the evening, after I'd caught a male energy doing what was rather a very large sigh. Whether it was because he'd heard this child laughing, was it a sigh that was to say that children should be seen and not heard? I don't know. But again, do these energies actually see each other? Or are they on different planes as well?
Yeah, that's the question I asked somebody else on a couple of shows ago. I asked kind of the same. I think it was Malcolm when he was on. He was talking about there was an alien and a little girl in the same room. And I said, I wonder if they were aware of each other, you know.
I mean, the only place I've really had such an intelligent spirit as such was it was when Secret Hauntings had first started. We was lucky enough to be the only team ever that I know of to investigate a place called the White Lion's Yard in Mansfield. It was an old Tudor house on one side of the yard, and the other side of the yard was a building, but it was a cave at the bottom and then the building on top. And the cave was being made into one of the real ale bars. But the Tudor house, we was in there, and it was the first night that Danny had ever come out with Secret Hauntings, and he was the guy who proved to me that there are mediums out there who say they can do what they can do. And he was asking certain questions, and for 40 minutes there was taps on the ceiling, taps on the walls. The taps on the ceiling was like somebody knocking on wood, but the ceiling was concrete. Now, when we reviewed the footage, we'd got 2 cameras in the room facing in opposite directions, so we could listen and see if we could pick anything up. On one of the cameras, there was a female voice, and she'd been doing a couple of sighs as if somebody was sitting where she should be standing next to this camera. And Danny had said to us that there was 3 energies that he was picking up: a little girl, a male, and a third energy that would not show itself. It was too strong. It was a dominant energy. But when we reviewed all the footage, we got a mumbling on one of the cameras. So when we run it through the TV and put the TV on the complete volume right up, you could hear a female, and she literally said, "It's okay, they've gone downstairs." And we just said, right, we'll leave it here and we'll go down and have a drink. And we'd gone out the room, and it was probably 10 seconds after we'd gone out the room that this energy speaks. So there was something very, very intelligent in that building. And unluckily for me and the team, the people who was leasing those properties about a year later had lost them due to financial difficulties. But that is probably as well one of the best active places that I've been.
Sounds amazing.
We can't get back in now. I'm hoping that the people who do have it may let me, but it's now trying to get hold of the people who's got it.
I see. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to let you in case something gets stirred up.
In case you release something.
But they used to say to us that every time I'd gone up, because I'd go up and show them the footage, And they used to say, like, every time you've been up, we've had 3 days of hell. We've had beer mats thrown at customers. We've had things moving. And we've had people walk in the building and walk out because they won't stop in here. And I think at one point they didn't want me to go back up.
I mean, to me, you think that would draw the customers in, wouldn't you? You know, it would me.
Again, yeah.
I mean, people love to go to a haunted house, don't they? Or a building or something.
You think so. You think so. I mean, you hear a lot of people saying, oh, I watched this or I watched that. And then you say to them, well, would you like to come and experience it? And the amount of people who say, no, you're all right, I'll leave it.
Yeah.
But there are also a lot of people out there who, you'll know this yourself, who will dismiss everything and say you're crazy. But they'll never come out with you either, because deep down they are worried.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I suppose they're not all like you and me. I mean, you're probably like me, that if someone says to you, oh, we've got a haunted house here, do you want to come? I'd be up there like a shot.
Yeah, the equipment's packed every day. It's all ready for going.
Yeah. Oh, well, talk about equipment. What sort of equipment do you use just to sort of like clear up and finish up?
Yeah, we've sort of changed a little bit over the years. We use the hard drive Sony Handycams, but I also have several police body cameras that we use as well, for setting up and while we're walking around on the investigation. And they're also great for areas that you can't get a tripod in or put a handycam in.
Yeah.
So you just place one there, and you normally get about 5 or 6 hours of record time on them as well.
You get like the head cameras as well. They're quite handy there because they'll go wherever you're looking, won't they?
Yeah, I've got a couple of pairs of glasses that are cameras as well, which are great on setup because you can be walking around setting up, and they do pick up. They're not night vision. That's the only problem with them. The other equipment we'll use, like I said, we'll use the singing bowls. I use a Geo phone as well for vibration, and we'll set that up, and we'll set it up so it's quite sensitive, but not that sensitive that any little sound's going to trigger it or trigger the lights. It's got to be close to it, or if something's heavy and stamping, then it will pick it up a bit further away. I use a REM pod, which is static, and that's in the shape of a police car, and you've literally got to go within 5 or 6 inches to make that go off.
Right.
And that will just set an alarm off and flash the blue flashing lights. But I use that mainly to try to draw out if there's any children's spirits.
Yeah.
So they're getting inquisitive. But we use the voice recorders, and dowsing rods. We have seemed to get some good results on dowsing rods, but again, it's your interpretation. As long as you've set it up for a yes and a no, and they've got to have the collars on so that you can't physically turn them.
Yeah. I did that once, and I couldn't remember which one I said was yes and no. So after asking the question,
but we seem to have so much equipment, and I'll be honest, on some of the investigations, we don't really use it. I mean, I've got new EMF meters as well, not the K2s or the Rook meters. These are just little. They're quite good EMF meters, and they will only pick up on electricity or magnetic fields within that area. Like you know yourself, the K2 and other meters will pick up the mobile phone. It'll pick up the radios. These are quite good because unless you're standing right over the meter with the radio, it won't pick it up.
Yeah, I've had some interesting experiences with the K2 meter, I must admit.
Problem is the K2 can be manipulated.
Yeah, I guess it can. I was invited onto a ghost hunt in Carlisle. Oh God, it must have been 2 years ago now. But the room I went in, it was like a hotel as well in the castle. And I actually put my KT meter on as soon as I went into my room where I was. But later on, I put it on the bed and it was on, and it went right over to red for no particular reason. And that sort of scared. Well, it didn't scare me a bit. I thought, what the hell? Why did it suddenly do that? And I've also.
Did you get any more responses?
No, I didn't. It went off, and that was it. That was the end of it, really. But I've also had some funny experiences in Rendlesham Woods, to be honest, with the K2 meter. And a friend of mine who's actually passed away now, but he had a K2 meter as well. And we both had one on, and funny enough, mine went to red, and his went off, and then his went to red, and mine went off. And we had the same thing with torches as well. My torch went off, his went on, my torch went on, and his went off. It was really strange.
There was something then manipulating the batteries in those.
Yeah. I mean, I've also seen that on that same, I think it was that same investigation actually, in the bar area they had some torches. And that wasn't the bar area. There was a couple of different places, locations, but they had some, the Maglite torches set up, just laying there, and they were asking the spirit or whatever to turn the torches on, and they were, and then they were going off again. It was crazy. I'd never seen that before.
The only strange one we've really ever had was a private investigation. I'd been contacted by another team because we work closely with other small teams as well, and they said to me, like, are you free? I've got to come over to do this case, and it's just around the corner from your house. So I was like, yeah, of course, I'll help you out. And we had what I can only explain as time displacement at this property. Now, we set the cameras up, and we set 2 cameras up on a hallway, one pointing down and one pointing up. And we'd set a camera up on the washing basket because it was the easiest place to set it. And the camera fell after about 3 hours of being there. But when we reviewed the footage, the camera at the other end of the corridor had actually recorded the camera falling, us speaking about why the cameras fell and how hot the camera was, but before the camera had fell.
That's weird.
Yeah, we couldn't explain it because all the cameras were set for the correct time, so that we knew when we was reviewing that if we picked something up on one camera, right, let's go and check the other camera. The times were all set the same. But this camera had recorded everything before it had happened. To this day, we can't explain it, but the story we'd been told by the owner, what had been happening in the house, it sent alarm bells to us. They'd had other people in, and things that how these other people had operated wasn't right. And I can't really, and I'm not going to go into it because it's not fair, and that investigation's gone, and hopefully we managed to give them some answers to what they wanted. Yeah. But again, we did find things in there, but I don't think it was as bad as what they'd been told. Right. I think again it was just something that was probably in the house already before they owned it. Because
you're supposed to start the investigations with the respect and also close them down properly, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a private investigation at somebody's house, the first thing we'll always do is explain what we're there for. you know yourself, it looks like you're going crazy because you're just talking to empty space, and you're explaining that you're not there to cause any harm, discomfort. You're not there to move anything on, unless the person's asked that if you find anything, then that's down to the medium for them to work on and what they pick up. But on the initial investigation, we'll only go in, see what we can find. And like you say, yeah, you've got to go in there with respect. You can't go in there shouting and using vulgarities, because it's somebody's home and they've got to live there. And again, when you leave, unless these people are being harmed in any way, you leave it in a way the way you found it. If they're only being startled or they're seeing something out the corner of their eye, the chances are this thing, whatever's there, isn't trying to scare them. It's wanting to communicate, because it might want help, or it just wants to say, look, I was here before you, but you're welcome.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, because they can't explain it, are scared. And 9 out of 10 times, it's not there to harm them. That's my own personal opinion on that. I know other people will have different opinions, but if the people haven't been harmed already, I think they're just looking for an answer of what it is.
Sure.
Will it move on? You can, like we'll say to them, you can ask it to go. Whether it does or not is a different matter. If it's not doing you any harm, why should you ask it to go?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, most interesting. Okay, Paul, on that note, I guess, I'll tell you what, have you got a website or anything anyone can check up on, or?
Yeah, we've got secrethauntings.co.uk, www.secrethauntings.co.uk.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone really does want to contact us, they can contact us through Facebook. We're on Facebook, Secret Hauntings, and yeah,
you're on there as Paul Secret Hauntings Croft, aren't you? So if you look for...
Yeah, but we also have the Secret Hauntings Facebook page as well.
Am I on that? I can't remember if I'm or not. I'm in so many different groups, I can't remember. I'll have to search it out now and have a look.
You probably like the page at some point.
I must be in there. I think I must be on there somewhere.
But like I said, we're here to help anybody, and it don't matter where they are in the country. If we can help, we'll travel. We don't charge anybody for anything. If we've got to travel 100 mile, we'll travel 100 mile.
Yeah.
We don't charge for fuel, we don't charge for time. But what people have to realise is we all have full-time jobs.
Sure. Yeah.
And families. So we try to help people as soon as we can.
Yeah.
If it's a case that we can't get to, the chances are we might know somebody in that area who we trust.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, if you ever come down to my neck of the woods, you know you can always give me a ring.
Oh, definitely. I'd love to go and do the woods.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if ever you fancy coming over or down or up or whatever it is, it's down to me, and then it will be up again to the right a bit, something like that.
Yeah, we can definitely sort something out. That's not a problem.
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be nice to see you. Yeah. I mean, as I say, I'm coming up to Nottingham next year with the East Anglia group. Maybe I might get to see you then.
I literally live 25 minute walk away from the Galleries of Justice.
Right, that's to try and make a point of going to buy you a beer or something then.
So yeah, you let me know when you're up, and
yeah, I'll dig the date out. I can't remember what the date is at the moment. I think it's May or somewhere. No, that's something else. But yeah, I'll dig the date out and find out what it is, and I'll send it to you. But as I say, you're always welcome down here, Paul, if ever you're around in the area.
Yeah, it'll certainly be a pleasure. See you and Jill again.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting places like churches and things around this area, which I want to start investigating myself.
Yeah, I mean, there is one church I want to go to, and I think I will be doing that at some point this year, and that is up in Scotland.
Oh yeah, there's loads of weird places up there.
Yeah, I mean, you'll know the church. It was used in Da Vinci. in the film The Da Vinci Code, right at the end.
Yeah, I can't think. What was it called?
I'm not telling you.
Right. Thanks for that. Well, on that note, ta-ra. No, I can't think what it was now. I think Bill Rook was talking about that when he was on a couple of weeks ago as well.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's one of the churches that, because I'm so interested in the Templars.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't.
I want to get up there.
No, I can't think what it is, but I'll probably think of it when you've gone. But,
yeah, I would say I'd look on the phone, but my phone's on charge and that's on silent out of the way.
Anyway,
so,
just to save us any more further embarrassment, Paul, it's been nice. It's been lovely having you on, and great talking to you again. And I do.
No, thank you.
I
David.
do hope to get to see you again at some point. I'm sure we will. I'm sure our paths will cross again at some point.
Most definitely.
And we'll have to make a point of making it so. But
we will indeed.
Anyway, Paul, take care of yourself, and love to your family and everything, and good luck to you, and take care of yourself, right?
And to you, David, if you're my best.
I will do.
You take care.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.
Okay,
right. Cheers. Bye-bye. You've been listening to Paranormal Dimensions on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I'm David Young. Hope you'll join us again next week.
Paranormal Dimensions is as bright and powerful as our celestial star, the sun. And although it's expending thousands of pounds of energy every minute of the day, have no fear. There's plenty left.
Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.